What's going on, y'all? Your man Ron Cross right here. Welcome to Ron on the Grill, back for another cook. And this one is something that I've never done before. So I've done a little research and I'm going to tell you what I found out. First of all, let's get a look at what we're doing. Beef short ribs, y'all. Look at these. These are some monsters. Look at this. This is basically brisket on a stick, they're telling me. This is a 3-bone little rack right there. Now, as I was reading about this, I found out that some people were saying to trim this fat off the top, and some people weren't. But most people were saying to trim it off because there's some silver skin. That's the reason why I'm gonna do it. There's some silver skin underneath there. So if you know anything about the silver skin, that's the stuff that's on the back of baby back ribs and stuff like that. You can't chew it. So if there's some on the top of here, we need to get it off. Plus, you can see that there's a ton of marbling inside of here. So we really don't have any reason to be worried about keeping this fat for the sake of moisture and retaining moisture. The other thing is that some people say take this silver skin off. Some people say don't take it off. I can see why it wouldn't be necessary to take it off in this case, because all the meat is going to be sitting right on top of the bone. This is not something you're going to be eating anyway. So in that regard, there's really no reason to take it off. However, I am going to go ahead and take it off anyway because I want to shorten up the time a little bit. I've had a rain delay. I want to get these done a little bit quicker if I can without rushing the process. So let's get into the prep. I'm going to just take some of this fat off, trim. I can see a big section of silver skin right there. No rhyme or reason and stuff. I'm just going to try to avoid cutting off a lot of meat as much as possible, but I'm just going to trim some of this down, trim some of this fat off. Right here, you can see some of that same really hard fat that you find in a brisket. This stuff, as you know, does not render, and a lot of times it can go down into the meat. So I'm not going to try to dig it out. You'll end up with holes and stuff. But I'm just going to cut it as much as possible and as close as possible without cutting off a bunch of meat. It's pretty close right there, but we still got a pretty good cap right here. So I'm just going to keep working on this, and I'll bring you back. All right, that's about the best I can do with that, y'all. We're gonna go ahead on and flip it over and work on this silver skin. And from videos that I've watched, I know this silver skin is a lot tougher than what I'm used to on the backs of ribs. We'll see how this goes. All right, that's pretty much it for the most part. It's not perfect, but I got most of it off. So let's go ahead and get some seasoning on this thing. Now, I like to start with the back because the top of the rib is the presentation side. So I don't want to season the top of my rib and then flip it over and get it all messed up. And even though technically we're not going to be eating the bottom of these, we still want to season it. So I want to slather a little mustard on here at the binder and rub it around. Making sure to get the sides too because they're so thick. And when I'm doing beef, when I'm doing brisket, I like to start with a fine layer on the bottom and then put a coarse layer on top. I got that from Malcolm Reed actually. So I'm gonna start with some bone-sucking sauce and just spread that liberally around the bottom. And then on top of that, for our coarse layer, Montreal steak seasoning. So let's go put that on as well. Don't have to go as heavy with that, but we're just gonna pat it in. Get it on the sides. And then we'll flip it over. So that's all we gotta do to this. I'm just gonna let this sit right here on the counter, let these seasonings and these rubs adhere to the meat and soak in. And I'm gonna go out here and get the grill ready, and then we'll bring you back when it's time to put them on. All right, that's all we got to do really to get the grill set up. We're just waiting on it to come up to temp at this point. I'm gonna check on it in about a half an hour or so. Once it's up to temp, we put those ribs on and we just let them go. I'll bring you back when we're ready to put them on. All right, so it looks like my grill is up to temp and stable, so it's time to put these short ribs on. So let's get over here and make it happen. Nothing to do now but wait. So we'll be back. It's been at least a couple of hours by now. Let's see what's going on right now. Most of the places that I'm temping in, I'm getting right around 165. So being that this is my first time doing this particular dish, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it and let it go until it gets to at least 200. Let's get it wrapped. All right, I'll come back out here in say another hour and see what it's doing. I'll get back with you then. Back out here for another check on our beef short ribs, and I'm pretty sure that they're probably up to temp right now. Let's take a look. Sitting at 200 right there. 204, 205 right there. So here's the thing, my thermometer is telling me that it's at 200, but it's not really about the reading at this point. It's about how tender are they probing. When you're probing the meat, this is when you're using a thermometer to probe the meat, what you're checking for is how much resistance is that meat giving you. In other words, when the meat is tender enough, we want this thermometer to feel like we're sticking it in some butter. I'm getting a little bit of resistance. Just a little bit, but not enough to leave them on there any longer. I mean, they're at temperature and they're very, very close to temperature. I mean, very close to the tenderness that I want. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna put the whole thing, we're gonna wrap the whole thing in this towel, and then we're going to sit it down in a cooler and let it sit there and rest in that cooler for about a half an hour or so. And what's gonna happen is, while it's sitting in the cooler, all of these juices inside the meat will redistribute, but it'll also climb a few more degrees and give us a little more tenderness. So let's go ahead and do that right now. We're gonna let that rest right there for about 30 minutes or so. When it comes out of there, it's gonna be super juicy and it's gonna be very tender. So we'll bring you back at that point.